Well, thank you so much. And can I say it's great to be here with you this afternoon. I think I should start by offering really sincere thanks to Energy UK for hosting this conference. And I want to pay real tribute to Dara Vyas for her incredible leadership over the last year as CEO. So will you join me in just giving tribute to Dara and the great job that she is doing? I will let you into a secret. Because I'm the last speaker this afternoon, I was sort of worried there would be kind of nobody left. So as I was arriving here, I accosted two people on the doorstep, and I said, "Oh, you're not staying for my speech?" And they said to me, "We actually weren't here to hear you. We were here to hear David Willits." They turned out to be from UCAS. That is the lesser-known UCAS. It's the UK accreditation standards body. So I learned something that there are two UCASs in the world. But thank you to all of you for staying. But thank you more for all of the work that we've done together over the last 15 months and before that in opposition. And can I honestly say that in a challenging job, the best part of it by far is the chance to meet with you and work with you on a shared agenda for the country. And so I just really want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I know we don't always do what you want us to as government, and I'm sure you'd want us to do more of what you want us to do. But I can honestly say it's an absolute pleasure to work with people from across the breadth of this industry. And I think one of the reasons why, maybe the main reason why it's such a pleasure to work with you, is just what an incredibly exciting time it is for the sector. And if I think about what we've been able to achieve in the last 15 months, I think it's only been possible because of our work together. So we've consented record amounts of clean energy, enough to power the equivalent of 7.5 million homes, including just today Tilbridge Solar Farm, which alone will power hundreds of thousands of homes. We're ending the first come, first served grid connections queue, and you'll have heard from Finton earlier. We're introducing the biggest reform of planning in a generation. We've set up GB Energy. We're investing in the biggest nuclear building programme in half a century and kick-starting our carbon capture and hydrogen industries. And I say this with all seriousness, none of this would have been possible without your advice, support and delivery. Now, I think all of those achievements aren't just a list of achievements. I think they speak to a wider purpose, and I think it's a shared purpose between us, which is that, yes, about this government's clean energy superpower mission, but I think that is part, I think I hazard to say for all of us, of a bigger vision of a fairer, more prosperous economy. Soon we'll publish our Clean Energy Jobs Plan, which will show not just the hundreds of thousands of good jobs that already exist in this sector, but also the 400,000 additional jobs we expect to be created by 2030. And, you know, place by place, I think probably all of us in our different ways can already see the difference that this is making and has the potential to make to our country and to the kind of economy we have, because these can be good jobs at good wages that provide people with a decent standard of living. But having said that, we also know that creating an economy that works for the many involves tackling the long-running cost of living crisis that so many people face. And that's what I wanted to focus on today. And you'll have heard others talk about this, I'm sure, during the course of today. And I know that we'll be judged on the success of our mission in delivering for consumers, and rightly so. So I want to make an argument to you today, and this is my case. First, that our exposure to fossil fuel markets remains the Achilles heel of our energy system, keeping bills high and giving us no long-term certainty over price. Second, that we face further challenges of historic underinvestment in our energy system and growing electricity demand. And the choice for the future, therefore, is what kind of energy system we want to build, not whether we want to build it at all. And I'll say what I mean by that. Third, I believe that building clean energy is the right choice for the country, because despite the challenges, it's the only route to a system that can reliably bring down bills for good and give us clean energy abundance. And fourth, I want to talk about how, as we build this new infrastructure, the government is determined to work with you to bring the benefits to families and businesses as quickly as possible. And after that, you get to all go home or have a nice time. So, look, first, memories can be short in Westminster, but I think we should never forget, and I'm sure in this room you don't, the huge damage to family finances, business finances, and the public finances caused by the energy shock we've been through in recent years. And it's a shock that still reverberates today. And the reason for this damage, as we all know in this room, is because the UK was and is so exposed to international fossil fuel markets due to our dependence on gas across the economy. Even today, wholesale gas costs for households are still around 75% higher than they were before the energy crisis. If they were at pre-crisis levels, bills will be more than £200 a year lower than they are today for families. The same story applies to business. Industrial electricity prices soared at the start of the energy crisis and have remained stuck at high levels. So while it's true that we've inherited a system of paying for network and other costs, which is less weighted towards public spending than other countries, a large part of the issue facing industry in the UK is our exposure to fossil fuels. As UK Steel said earlier this year when talking about why they and other energy intensives were paying higher electricity prices in the UK than our European competitors, and I quote, they said, the main driver of the price disparity is now wholesale electricity costs driven by the UK's reliance on natural gas power generation. And I think it's also right to say, going back further than Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that this has been a long-standing weakness at the heart of the British economy and society, with half of our recessions since 1970 caused by fossil fuel shocks. And looking forward, and again, people's memories can be short, this remains a massive risk, particularly at a time of global instability. According to the OBR, if gas price spikes occurred once every decade, it could cost the UK between 2 to 3% of GDP annually. So I think, and this is my first point, and I'll end on this point and then move on to my second, anyone who tells you that we can solve the issues of energy security and affordability without addressing our reliance on fossil fuels seems to me to be ignoring the evidence before our eyes and this country's recent painful experience. Second, of course, this isn't the only challenge we face in our energy system, and all of you know this well. In the years ahead, we expect a massive increase in electricity demand, and I'm sure Fintan talked about that, around 50% by 2035 and a more than doubling by 2050. Now, it's really important to say this. This is a massive opportunity for us. This is the age of clean electricity, we hope to clean electricity, that we're looking at. And we want to seize those opportunities, the electric vehicles that are cheaper to run, new industries such as AI, the benefits of electrification across the economy, indeed the benefits to households of electrification, which so many people in the industry talk about so compellingly. But we face growing demand, and at the same time, we've got a legacy of decades of underinvestment in our energy system to overcome. And I think whatever power sources people are in favour of, they need to confront this reality. Much of the UK's current nuclear fleet began operating in the 1980s, and of course we haven't brought a new nuclear power station onto the system since Sizewell B 30 years ago. At the same time, according to NESO, half the existing gas fleet has already been operating for over 20 years. And the reason I make this point is to listen to some people talk, I won't name any names, you'd think there was a free pass to just carry on using unlimited gas in an unlimited way from existing stations for the next few decades, but that isn't the case. We could decide to stop building renewables and just rely on a whole new fleet of gas-fired power stations, but we need to be candid about this. That would involve the costs of building and not just operating those plants. And the underinvestment, of course, as you also know, the underinvestment we face isn't just about generation. Much of the electricity grid was built in the 1960s and hasn't been upgraded since, and I'll come back to this. So the second point I want to make is the reality is there is no alternative to investment in both generation and the network, both to keep the power system running, but also to seize the opportunities and indeed meet the needs of the future. Takes me to the third part of my remarks. If the question, therefore, is not whether to build, but what to build, I want to say why we believe clean power is the right choice for the country. Let's be absolutely clear what the cheapest sources of power are in this country, according to levelised cost estimates. Solar power and onshore wind. Strike prices for solar and onshore wind in our last auction, AR6, were nearly 50% cheaper than the levelised cost estimate to build and operate a new gas plant. Offshore wind, despite global cost pressures, was also cheaper than new gas. And at a systems level, and this is really the logic of our mission that we developed in opposition and that we're carrying through into government in a consistent way, the prize of a renewables-based system supported by nuclear and other technologies is really important to spell out. It gets us off the fossil fuel roller coaster, and indeed Clean Power 2030 will mean volatile gas sets the wholesale electricity price much less often than today. It's homegrown clean energy, which cannot be weaponized by dictators or petrostates, giving us much greater energy sovereignty, and it will significantly lower the wholesale costs of electricity, which will benefit heavy industry and has the potential to bring down consumer bills for good. Now, I want to acknowledge something important at this point. Wholesale prices obviously aren't the only costs paid for by consumers, and we need to fund investment in energy infrastructure, including in the upgrade that is now sorely needed because of previous neglect. I talked earlier about transmission infrastructure. This will be familiar to you, but in 2023, the previous government estimated 4 times as much transmission infrastructure needed to be built by the end of the decade as has been built since 1990, and that network infrastructure is what is now being delivered under this government. It's important to say this, though. Even taking this investment into account, the Climate Change Committee was clear in its Carbon Budget 7 advice, and I quote, "As the electricity system decarbonises, with wind and solar displacing unabated gas, the underlying costs of electricity supply are expected to fall over time." Now, of course, I want to just be clear that in this majority renewable system we're building, we'll need a mix of energy technologies. That's why we're driving forward not just on renewables, but on nuclear, storage, CCUS, hydrogen, and gas will continue to play an important backup role for some time to come. And as I've also said, but it's worth emphasising, people are entitled to advocate for more fossil fuels and less or even no more renewables. Some people do advocate for that as part of this mix. But here is the reality that I think those people need to confront. They would leave us more exposed because we don't control the price. They're more expensive to build and operate. They would leave us losing out in the global race for the jobs, investment and industries of the future which you are all creating. And of course they would drive a coach and horses through our efforts to tackle the climate crisis. That's why we believe that clean power is the right choice for the country. And the task ahead for government and for all of us together is to bear down on the costs of building, which face significant upward pressures, and work relentlessly to translate the lower wholesale costs of clean power into lower bills for consumers. So let me say something about how we're going to address those challenges. And we're looking at all of the tools at our disposal. How public investment can help reduce costs. And I'll give you an example. We're doing that through Sizewell C, for example. Using reformed national pricing, which we're working on with Fintan and others, to plan and build a more efficient system which provides the right incentives to build the right generation in the right places. And by the way, as you all know, when there's a debate about constraint costs, that network infrastructure is absolutely crucial to reduce those constraint costs. And also, and I want to underline this point too, relentlessly focusing, and this is our responsibility as government, focusing on value for money in each and every decision we make. I'll give one example. We've halved the subsidy for Drax Power generation as part of the negotiations we had with them. And this approach will be what we apply also to the upcoming auction round AR7 and beyond, where delivering value for money is our top priority. We've made reforms to the auction, as you will all know, to maximise competition between bidders and reduce the cost to consumers. And there are multiple pathways and technology mixes that can get us to Clean Power 2030. I do want to be clear about this. We won't buy at any price, and if specific technologies aren't competitive, we'll look elsewhere. We will take the long-term decisions to secure the right amount of capacity at the right price for the country. And in the coming weeks, I'll set the initial budget for AR7, working with the Treasury, and will only go beyond it if it delivers clear value for money. Now, as we drive towards clean power, we know that there are many struggling with bills now. And that takes me to the fourth part of my remarks about what we're doing to help families and businesses. This winter, and I'm incredibly proud that we are doing this, we're expanding the Warm Homes discount to give nearly 3 million more families on the lowest incomes £150 off their energy bills. And this is really overcoming an old and very arbitrary system which said if you didn't live in a quotes, hard-to-heat home, you didn't get the Warm Homes discount, which was depriving millions of people of the help they frankly deserved. We're increasing support for 7,000 energy-intensive businesses, and we'll shortly publish, and we're very excited about this, we'll shortly publish our Warm Homes Plan, kicking off Britain's biggest programme of home upgrades in generations, backed by £13.2 billion of public investment to upgrade up to 5 million homes over this Parliament. That was announced in the spending review. And the Warm Homes Plan, as you all know, will help families with the cost of solar, batteries, heat pumps and insulation to lower bills and tackle fuel poverty. And I think in this room, we all know the potential this has to bring the benefits of clean electricity to people and to lower their bills. It's something that consumers with the means to do so are already taking advantage of. And we want, and this is the point of the Warm Homes Plan, one of the points of it, we want to spread those benefits much more widely so it's not just a privilege for those who can afford it. Alongside this, and this is particularly important in the light of today's NAO report, we'll reform the system of consumer protection and advice to help make families make the choices that work for them and ensure the highest standards of installation. We also want to go further. That's why, another announcement that we made in the last 15 months, we will ensure new homes are built with solar and clean heating as standard. This is a common sense policy which frankly has been demanded by the public, championed by industry, and will be delivered with the Future Home Standard. And if I can make one plea just before I finish, we don't just want to stop at new homes. It is one thing I've been struck by in this job over the last 15 months. It's that solar power offers a cheap and quick way for people and indeed communities to generate their own energy and cut their bills by hundreds of pounds a year. But currently, just 1.5 million homes, around 1 in 20, have solar installed. I mean, this is a massive, massive opportunity, as I say to my department a lot, to cut bills using the free resource of the sun. And I am determined to try and extend this possibility to millions more people, much more than get it at the moment. And I want to work with you, and there will be others we're working with in private finance and elsewhere to make that happen. So this is our plan, pursuing clean power by 2030 and bring the benefits to families as quickly as possible to help with the pressure of affordability that so many face. The last point I want to make is this, and you'll have heard this during the course of today, and I don't want to drag you into politics, but I think there are two roads opening up for Britain, and we need to be candid about that, in a way that hasn't been true for 2 decades. One road is a sprint to clean power, a partnership between industry and government, which I've talked about. The other road is doubling down on our exposure to fossil fuels, and I believe, I submit, turning our back not just on the progress in clean energy of the last 15 months, but actually on the partnership of government and business over at least 2 decades in the UK. Now, I think going down the second road would lose the good jobs that I see you creating from this huge economic opportunity, the energy security and sovereignty which is within our reach, and of course our efforts on the climate crisis. And I think actually waving the white flag in the climate fight would mean we were rightly held in infamy by future generations. I would certainly be held in infamy by my kids, even more so than now. They are 16 and 14. Now, look, I want to just make this final point to you, which is I know that as businesses, you will see that this breakdown of the consensus poses a challenge to our shared agenda. But look, I am really confident that we can persuade people that the road we have chosen is the right one. And that's for a number of reasons. Because the country wants a positive vision and hope for the future. And if I can put it this way, you are all in the hope business. You know, I always say to people, we are not just the people in the disaster avoidance business in multiple generations' time. We are the people in the better lives business today. You know, when I talked recently to an apprentice at Sizewell C, you know, he was absolutely buzzing with the opportunities that this was creating for him. He wasn't having to leave his hometown. And he saw this future ahead of him. And there'll be 1,500 more people like him at Sizewell C. And then for every Sizewell C, there's an example that you'll have around the country. That is about being the hope business. And I think this country wants hope. And this country wants optimism. So you're part of this positive vision and hope for the future. The economics has changed in all recognition. Whatever the challenges, the trend is clear. The economics has moved in the direction of clean energy. That's what you see all across the world, and that's what you see in the UK. And for that reason, this is the answer, as I've been arguing today, to the affordability challenges that families and businesses face. End on this point. Genuinely, I feel humbled to be the Energy Secretary with this fantastic industry. And together with you, I'm determined that we make the right decisions in the months and years ahead to show the British people how our shared agenda can deliver for them. Thank you so much.